Good morning, welcome to Five Tool. My name is Jason. I'm so glad that you chose to join us. If this is your first time, welcome. We are so glad that you have allowed us to be a part of your growth and just your Hey, welcome to Five Tool. My name is Jason. So glad that you could join us today, whether you've been a regular or whether this is your first time tuning in. I can't tell you how much I appreciate having the opportunity just to share a little bit and invest in your spiritual growth. I pray that these messages help you take a step forward in your life and becoming the person that God's called you to be. Do want to have just a quick second here to tell you some exciting news. We finally got a website up and running. I'm not great at them, so it's nothing special, but it is a website where all of the videos are going to start being posted. So if you have friends or coaches or family that don't have Facebook or YouTube or whatever the case may be, you can just give them this link. It's going to be right down here below, fivetoolministries.com. We tried to make it as easy to remember as we possibly could, fivetoolministries.com. And we'll have some blogs that are there. I'm going to try to get some friends to do some guest blogging, some interviews, and then all of our Sunday messages will be there as well. So hopefully that's a great resource for you. We want to keep highlighting some of our Five Tool athletes as well. So if you have an athlete in mind that you feel represents our five tools, character, confidence, courage, composure, chemistry, we would love to hear from you. Send us a picture, maybe what they do, where they do it, and just kind of how you feel they display one of those five tools, and we would love to highlight them. That's what we do. We want to celebrate athletes that are doing things the right way and in a way that elevates God and just the good values that we represent here at Five Tools. So all that being said, I want to jump right into today's message on one of my favorite topics, and that's leadership. I love leadership. I love to study leadership. I love to equip people to be better leaders. I love to learn myself how to be a better leader. I'm kind of a conference junkie. I love going to conferences. I don't get to go as often as I would like, but if I could choose the type of conferences I go to, it's leadership conferences. I love learning different ways to lead different people and different personalities and how to adjust my leadership style depending on who I'm trying to lead or what organization or what team I'm trying to lead. So today I specifically want to talk about leadership. Now, before we get in, there are a few different camps that our community has in regards to leadership. Some of you are coaches. I get that. I appreciate that. I'm glad you're joining us. Some of you are parents. This applies to you. Some of you are not parents, you're not coaches, but you have great influence on kids. This message is for you. And then the rest of you are athletes. And I think if you're a high-level athlete, if you're in a highly competitive environment, you are wired to be a leader. Whether you are or not, I don't know. But you are wired that way. You have it within you to be a leader. I believe we all have leadership components in our life, in our DNA. Some of it just needs to be peeled back a little bit and exposed and revealed for it to come out. Some of us need to have a leader that invests in us to encourage us to be the leader we know we can be. So today's going to be quick and simple because I want you to remember it. These are the four things in my life that I've learned that I try to teach other people to do when they lead, but it's also kind of a way to check yourself as a leader. Are you leading the right way? Are you leading the right things? Now, obviously, I believe that great leadership starts with yourself. If you're leading yourself well, you're going to be able to lead others well. John Maxwell, huge follower of John Maxwell, he says leadership is influence, nothing more, nothing less. I don't think that could be more true. That's really what we are as leaders. We are influencers. The question is, what are you influencing them? How are you influencing them? Is it taking them forward? Is it taking them back? Is it just making them stand still? How are you influencing the people that you are leading? Coaches, how are you influencing your team? Parents, how are you influencing your kids? All of you, you just influencers, how are you influencing those who look up to you? And to you athletes, you have a platform to lead. You have a platform to influence. You don't have to get caught up in everything that's going around you in the locker room and in the dugout or on the sidelines. Wherever it's going, you guys hear all of the stuff and all of the junk that's out in the world. Many of you, you grew up in a world that I couldn't have even dreamed of dealing with some of the stuff that you guys deal with every day. But you are called to be the influencer, not to be influenced. You be the leader. You lead them to the place where you know they could be, because you see the potential, you see the heart, you see where things could go if you step up and you're the influencer. So, what are these 4 things? The first thing that you lead with is your heart. It may be the most important thing. You lead with your heart. Now, what I like to say is this is the why. This is why you lead. Why do you do what you do? Why do you influence people? Why do you want to have influence? Why do you want to lead them somewhere where you see they could be, but maybe they don't see where they could be yet? What is your why? You have to be able to know your heart in leadership in order to lead with your heart. And I think one of the most powerful verses that speaks to this, it's kind of a check of your own heart, is found in Psalm 26:2. And it simply says this. I'm going to paraphrase these today, guys. I'll put the words down here below, but look them up yourself. But I'm just going to paraphrase just for time's sake. Psalm 26:2, it says this: put me on trial, God. Put me on trial. Examine me. Test my motives and test my heart. You want to lead with your heart, but the only way to lead with your heart is if you examine your heart. What kind of shape is your heart in? As a leader, you've got to be able to lead you first. Lead with your heart. Your heart's contagious. And if people can tell you're leading with your heart, and especially if it's a pure heart, and it's a heart that wants other people to do well and to advance forward, that's contagious, you guys, and people will be attracted to that and they will gravitate to that. Lead with your heart. Number 2, you lead with your head. It's amazing to me how many leaders that I come across that struggle with this. That they have the passion, they have the heart, but sometimes the thinking part slips them. They get so emotional that they don't think logically. They get caught up in the emotions and they make poor decisions. So I'm not saying that you have to devalue your heart, but you also have to lead with your head. So not only do you have to think about why you lead, think about what you're thinking as you lead. What are you thinking? What are your thoughts? What's your thought process? What are the systems that help you make decisions? The verse that I love to go back to check my thinking as a leader is Romans 12:2. Now, in Romans 12:1, Paul is just getting done saying that, hey, we are to offer our bodies as living sacrifices, holy and pleasing to God, and this is our act of true worship. But 12:2, I think, is just as powerful. Look at what he says. Again, this is a paraphrase. He says, don't copy the world. Instead, let God transform you. Now catch this. Let God transform you by changing the way you think. Let God transform you by changing the way you think. Then, after being transformed by changing the way you think, then you will know his will for you. Guys, the best way to lead with your head and to really lead people where you know they can go is to teach them how to think. Teach them how to think in a way that takes them forward. Teach them how to think in a way that helps them process things in a positive way. Teach them how to make decisions through a thought process that's healthy. If you want to be a leader that makes a lasting and sustainable impact, lead with your heart and lead with your head. And teach other people how to examine their heart and how to examine their thoughts. It is such an undervalued way to lead people. And I know you can have a tremendous effect on others if you will lead these ways. Lead with your heart, lead with your head. Number 2, I think it's a given, but you've got to lead with your hands. If you want to be a leader, and especially you want to be a leader of people, you're going to have to get your hands dirty. You're going to have to do stuff. Sometimes it means that you have to do things others don't want to do. I think you have to do things before others do. Because if you're a leader, the implication there is that people want to follow you. People want to go where you're going. It's the apprentice model, if you will. It's no different in Scripture. You see the apostles or the disciples, they're apprentices of Jesus. They want to do what Jesus did. They want to say what Jesus said. They want to interact with people the way Jesus interacted with people. If you are a leader, you are a leader because people follow you. And I would question, are you even a leader if people don't? I mean, by definition, you're a leader if you're leading something or someone. You've got to lead with your hands. You've got to lead with what you're doing. Physically, what are you doing? I love what James writes in the first chapter of his letter, James 1:22. He says, look, don't just listen to the word. Don't just hear what we teach you. Don't just read God's word and just take it in as knowledge or take it in as information. No, he said, don't just listen to the word. Be a doer of the word. Do what it says. Otherwise, you're just fooling yourself. I love this because James he's calling a spade here. And he says, look, if you want to be a leader, if you want to be a person that's getting it, that's firing on all cylinders, here's what you got to do. Don't just take in the data. Don't just take in the information. Apply it to your life. Because if you take in the information and you feel good about what you know, but you're not doing any of it, you're deceiving yourself. He goes on to say it's like looking in a mirror and forgetting what you look like. You have a wrong perception of who you are because you're not doing what you know to do. Leaders don't do that. You want to be a leader that makes a tremendous influence on people. Lead with your heart, know your why. Lead with your head, know your thoughts, examine your thoughts, teach people how to think. And lead with your hands. Be willing to do what you know is right, even when it's not popular. Teach people how to do what's right. And then finally, number 4, lead with your habits. I believe personally that we are all a product of the habits we create. The things that you do consistently, the things that you do regularly, the things you do without even thinking about doing them, eventually make you you. What are your habits? Do you invest in other people's habits? Do you teach them habits? So much of sports and athletic competition is muscle memory. You train your body to do things without even thinking of doing them. So much of high-level athletic competition is you just reacting to the situation in front of you. Now, yes, there are sports and there are situations where you can dictate what happens, but so much of competition is how you react. How do you respond? How do you get your body to do what you need it to do? Well, it's because you've practiced. It's because you've trained it to do what you need it to do in that situation. Guys, life is no different. Leadership is no different. The habits that you create are going to help you lead. The habits you make are going to determine the values you have. The habits that you make are going to determine the direction that you head in. What are the things you do regularly? What are the things you do consistently without even thinking about doing it? What do you do? Now, listen to this verse. This is Proverbs 16:3, and I want to explain this in just a little bit, but listen to this. Solomon writes this, commit your actions to the Lord, and your plans will succeed. You know what he's saying is, look, you all have dreams. You all have plans. You all have this direction that you want to go, but if you don't have actions that take you there, and if you don't commit those actions to the Lord, to a higher purpose, a higher guide, if you will, a higher bullseye than just your motive, you're going to fail. You may get what you want, But you see, here at Five Tool, we want to teach you to be leaders of a higher purpose, leaders of a higher calling. And Solomon says, look, commit your actions, commit your habits, your daily routines, commit those to the Lord. And your plans will succeed. You want to be successful, create healthy habits. Guys, I want no more for you, no less for you than for you to be a person of influence, for you to be a person that leads other people forward. Lead with your heart, lead with your head, lead with your hands, and lead with your habits. Thanks for joining us. Have a good week.